Greetings YouTube, welcome back to the Methernet channel. I am Marcus, bringing you another video for Cardfight Vanguard Overdress. In this video, of course, we're gonna go through the last of the new right line from DBT03, which is Flagburg, the descendant of Maelstrom and Tetradrive, with all the guns and Maelstrom looking dragon. So of course the playstyle for Flagburg is the classic Aqua Force playstyle where you attack a lot of time and then you activate certain amount of skills based on the how many times you attack in that turn. More or less focuses on poking your opponent, for example, because most of their attacks is like 5 to 10k guard. Those attacks are just there to kind of allows you to unlock some of their skills. The best example will be Flagburg, which we will talk about later. This deck is able to attack up to 6 times if your key pieces is right. Yes, you are able to attack for 6 times, but you do have to keep in mind of the pattern of attack because certain rearguards does restance, but it needs certain requirements in order to activate their restance skill. This deck does feature a decent bot control with a total of 2 rearguards being retired every single turn. Flagburg also features one of the most powerful guard restrict skill, which we'll talk about in depth later, but then 1 PG, it's not going to be enough if you want to guard Flagburg himself. This deck is really good, but it is a heavily key pieces reliant deck. If you don't have your key pieces while playing Flagburg, you might not be able to achieve those attack number count, which is gonna suck really bad. Also, one thing to keep in mind is that this deck does shut down quite a bit if your opponent does damage check into triggers. What this means is that if your opponent somehow dry check into maybe 1 trigger, most of your attacks are not gonna attack hit because most of your attack is kind of like 5 to 10k guard. It's gonna suck a little bit if your opponent is at a lower amount of damage instead of, like, for example, 5 damage. If your opponent is at 5 damage, then they have to guard everything, which makes the poking of Flagburg really good. This of course requires some planning before you actually attack because, like I said before, most rearguards does restand, but they do have certain requirements, so you do really need to plan ahead before you actually commit into using Flagburg skill. First off, we have Officer Cadet Charicles. I mean, of course, this is just a generic starter, nothing really much to talk about. Skip. First, of course, we have the Grade 1 right line, Inroad Shooter. Auto, when this unit is rode upon by Ascendance Assault, the Grade 2, call this unit to rearguard circle. Continuous rearguard circle. If your Vanguard is Flagburg Dragon or Ascendance Assault, this unit gets intercept and plus 2k power. This card basically allows you to either have a much aggressive turn or some form of defensive measures because you're able to call it in the front row, which will then apply some of the pressure onto your opponent. But then you're only able to do this when you are in grade 2. Of course, you could run more of Inroad Shooter, but I don't really recommend it because other units in this deck is much more important than this card over here. This card also could attack hit your opponent's Vanguard even if you're going second. If you're going second means that your opponent is at grade 2, which is a 10k base. And since this unit can hit for 10k, it's actually really good, and you could possibly just make a 5k poke and to see if he wants to guard. If he guards, that's fine. If he don't guard, that's also fine. Now, you don't really lose much except the fact that your opponent could attack this, so but it's still an option. It's really up to you. This card basically gives you the option to either play passively or aggressively. Next up, we have Ascendance Assault. Auto. This ability cost may be paid with reveal a Flagship Dragon, Flagburg Dragon, or Inroad Shooter from your hand. When this unit is rode upon, Soul Blast 1 card other than this card and call this card to rearguard circle. Second skill, Auto, rearguard circle. Once per turn. When your other rearguard attacks a Vanguard, if your Vanguard is Flagburg Dragon, counterblast 1 and stand this unit. The unridden skill is technically free if you have the Flagburg or the grade 1 in your hand, but even if you don't have Flagburg or Inroad Shooter, you're still able to Soul Blast out your stutter to call him out to the rearguard circle, which will means that the first time you ride into Flagburg, you're basically soulless. You do not have any soul at all. So you do need to be careful because some other skills does use soul quite a bit, so you do want to keep in mind of this. And also, this card does let you rake up the wave count, your wave attack count, to unlock Flagburg skill. But then keep in mind here is that this unit will only be able to activate when your other rearguard attacks a Vanguard. So this technically could attack first, your another rearguard attack, and then this will restand. So that's a total of 3 attacks just by the rearguards. So when you reach Flagburg, your Flagburg is going to attack for the 4th time, which will then activate the 3rd and the 4th skill of Flagburg. Overall quite nice, but do keep in mind on the resource management a little bit. Lax, of course, is the big man himself, or rather big dragon himself, Flagburg Dragon. Auto Vanguard Circle. When this unit attacks a Vanguard, counterblast 1 and perform all of the effects below according to the number of times you attack this turn. 3 or more, draw a card. 4 or more, choose 2 of your opponent rearguards and retire them. 5 or more, until the end of that battle, this unit plus 10k power, and when your opponent would call cards from their hand to Guardian Circle, they must call 3 or more at the same time. Most likely, he is always gonna be the last one to attack most of the time, but then there are cases where you can actually hit the 6th attack. Now, you don't really need to stress out on getting the 5th attack when your first grade 3 turn, because most likely your opponent is gonna be at a lower damage, so they can comfortably no guard Flagburg. What this means is that most probably your other attacks, your opponent will be guarding most of your other attacks, which you're attacking for 4 times. So even each and every one of them is a 5k shield. That's 4 hand cards drop from your opponent, which is also good. Of course, your opponent could choose not to guard, but then this will leave them into kill range for Flagburg. So even if your opponent does decide to PG Flagburg, they're gonna have to throw a total of 4 cards, 3 from this skill and 1 from the PG cost. It's gonna be really disgusting if you got all of your key pieces right and then you're able to get the 5 of more attacks, and not to mention if you get the 6, whatever triggers you get from Flagburg, you could actually put it into that rearguard, which is also really nice. Now let's take a look at some of the support that Flagburg has in this booster set. First off, we have Agress-blue Dragon. Auto rearguard circle once per turn. At the end of the battle, this unit attack a rearguard. If your Vanguard is Flagburg Dragon, Soul Blast 1 and stand this unit. So this card is the other card that actually helps you rake up your attack count so that you are able to unlock Flagburg's skill. Now the rearguard attacking restriction is kind of weird here. If your opponent does not have a front row, he is basically a vanilla. You cannot use his skill whatsoever because he needs to attack a rearguard first. So most of the time, Bastion's rearguard is going to be a grade 3, means that they are at 13k base. This unit is only at 10k, so most probably you're gonna need something like Adamantis to give him power in order to attack the rearguards. He could still attack a rearguard, just that it does not hit, but then you can also Soul Blast 1 to stand this unit, which is not really much of an issue, just that it's gonna be kind of awkward because most of your attack is not gonna attack hits, so yeah. Soul is starting to be an issue because, like I mentioned before, even if you have fulfillment of the Ascendance Assault on right skill, you're gonna end up with 1 card in the soul or less. So after using this 1 soul for this unit, that's it. You do not have any soul, so is an issue. But then after we talk about all the supports, then you may have an idea on how to build this deck. Next up, we have High Rate Burst Dragon. Auto, when this unit is placed on rearguard circle, if your Vanguard is Flagship Dragon Flagburg Dragon, choose one of your other rearguards and it gets auto rearguard. When this unit attacks, if it is the first battle of this turn, Counterblast 1 and Soul Blast 1 and stand this unit until the end of turn. So yeah, basically this card turns one of your rearguards into a Tidal Assault in a sense. So any rearguard can be given this skill, does not really matter. You just need to pay Counterblast 1 and Soul Blast 1 to restand it, which will help with raking up attack counts once again. This also costs a soul, which, as you can see, the soul usage is getting higher and higher with each card that we talked about right now. So this card also helps you with a break hand. So for example, if your hand does break and you could not like really get that 5th attack, this card can actually help you get that 5th attack, although the cost is really high, but it's better than breaking, right? Next, we have Creed Assault, continuous rearguard. If your rearguard was not standby and in fact this turn, this unit cannot attack. Continuous rearguard circle. During the battle, this unit attack a Vanguard, this unit gets 10k power. So the restriction here is really weird. This card is the most powerful attacker for Flagburg because 20k on his own is nothing to scoff at. It's a 10k shield at the minimum. However, I don't recommend you target this unit with the High Rate Burst Dragon, the previous card that we talked about, because High Rate Burst Dragon requires that rearguard to attack for the first time in order to activate the restand skills. Then since this unit could not attack, if there is no rearguard restand. So I don't recommending targeting this card with high rate burst dragon. There's still the one weakness of it is that damage check and this unit is done. We're done. Next up, we have Price Trident, Auto Rearguard Circle. When your other units attack, if it is the 5th battle of this turn, put this unit into your soul and countercharge 1. Now, this is your one and only consistent unit of gaining back some resources. Most importantly is the soul. And of course, you do need to attack for 5 battles in total. Only then you're able to put this to soul and countercharge 1, which will give you a soul as well as a countercharge, which is really appreciated by this deck. This card will most likely be a stapler for quite some time. And something to mention here is that this unit is not restricted to Flagburg. Magnolia is able to utilize this unit, which is super nice. I would recommend boosting this or attacking with this unit before your 5th attack, because once you reach your 5th attack, this card activates instantly. So you do have to be mindful of that. And then speaking of soul issue, we have this card that actually helps you gain back the soul. Blooming Petal. Okay, I'm not reading that name. Auto, when this unit is placed on rearguard circle, if your soul has no cards, soul charge 2. Yeah, so this card helps you replenish your soul. For example, if you don't have either Flagburg or Ascendance Assault in your hand by the time you write Flagburg from the right deck, you're able to soul charge 2 because you do not have any soul. By calling this out, hey, you have 2 soul to work with, so you can use it with Agress-blue Dragon as well as high rate burst dragon. The 9k base hurts a little bit. Also, this unit can be seen using in Magnolia as well, because Magnolia is one of those decks that uses the soul a lot. So it's also really helpful for Magnolia. And that is all for this video. Do let me know down in the comment section of what do you think of the return of Aqua Force to Overdress. Do like and subscribe if you like this video. Also, do ring the bell notification icon so that you don't miss a video I upload. With that being said, I'll see you all on the field.